You have someone to come up to the podium and present. But to start us off, we're going to start off with our virtual group and their representative, who I believe will be Ralph, our Dr. Castillo. So we are good to switch.
Hey. I guess on the virtual side of things, it was mostly just other organizers of the summit. So we didn't really have like any other filmmakers to be a part, but so we just selfishly kind of collaborated and thought in terms of like, how can we just kind of help each other within this space? And are there any challenges that we personally face in this space when we're trying to create our own stories? And so kind of piggybacking off of one of the people in our group was one of the ones that asked during Ralph and I's panel about funding. And so we just kind of expanded upon that in terms of, there's a lot of corporations that we see. So Ralph, for example, mentioned that like Netflix does a really good job at like making sure that there's like a highlighted feature, like, other types of platforms, or there's a highlighted feature of like films that are made from Black voices, but sometimes we don't see that, at least in the public media space or the nonprofits that we're technically trying to get funding from. And so, so kind of like, how do we kind of pressure the public media to kind of help not put the pressure on the producers or the small production companies to do the helping us distribute and spread the films that and feature the films that we are producing, and kind of pressuring them to kind of help us instead of putting the onus on us. And then I kind of reemphasize again the AZL grant, that I think it's a good one for at least Black public media to be thinking about, to propose, and as well as like when we think of distribution, really thinking about multi-platform stories that we do. And so not expanding upon just, okay, this is not just going to be on broadcast, but like, how do we create something that we maybe is intentional for broadcasting and then sharing it out in terms of like, are we doing an app for this? Are we going to do like an in-person, like, almost like pop-ups across the country, just to kind of have multiple entry points where people can kind of come connect with not only the film or the content that we produce, but, that kind of helps expand the community building that we try to do around the impact that we have with communities that we're trying to relate to, and also like increase the longevity of the impact that we do with the films that we're making. So Ralph, I don't know if you want to add anything else, but that's kind of the main talking points of our session.
Yeah, no, I think Stephanie, you got it all. But yeah, no, I think definitely it's just important for us to think about how we can use sort of platforms like this to to better engage our audiences and to really rely on each other's networks. I think I can't stress enough how much sort of promotion helps with our ability to engage audiences, and how really how important it is for us to think about how do we put more pressure within the public media system to uplift these stories, to show that audiences are caring, that care about them, want to hear them, especially with this younger generations for which climate change and its impact is really an existential crisis that they witness and they have been learning about all their lives. And so how do we use sort of that opportunity that there is within this sort of climate right now, the social climate, to better uplift these stories and give them the audience and connect them to the audiences that need to hear them and that need to be educated by them. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much, Ralph, Stephanie, and the virtual group. And we will make sure to uplift their work. Please watch Why Am I Like This on PBS Terra. Stay in tune with Nova. Caitlin is here, also from Nova. And we will make sure to have their work in our debrief. But I'm going to call y'all the giggle group. I heard a lot of giggling.
Hi, everybody. My name is Arlene Russell. I am delighted to be here. I am delighted to be in my group. We had such a great, such a great time. So I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about what we discussed. We talked about we got the instructions together and we learned a little bit about each other. So in the process of that, we were talking about, you were asking us a little bit about the organization focus, the challenges, and the opportunities. So the focus that we came up with, we heard today that what was near and dear to me personally was the fact that Miss Brown was talking about what was going on with her in the northeast part of Houston. So that gave us a pretty big platform to talk about because I could identify with that. And speaking to my team, they had a lot of different things as well. So what we were talking about is when people don't know what's going on, then you educate them. So here's some things that we said. When you're skeptical, it's because it can be a lot of different reasons. You can think that what they're saying about the environment is true. However, some people may be exposed to fear of losing their jobs if they were to speak out, fear of a political organization that they are a part of, and that they have a different view. So one political component of that could be that the person is a Republican or a Democrat, but they have different values based on what that topic is. And if a person were to say, well, I believe that right now the climate change is based on environmental issues that's going on in our environment, such as the landfill. You know, I was thinking about that. I was talking to my group, and where I grew up, there were landfills, there were a lot of chemical companies that were in the area. So if someone were to personally go out and say something and they were to see them on television and they spoke out against it, then that's just fear. So we felt like that's why they may not really be skeptical. They really may know, but they may have fear to talk about it. So how do we change this, and how do we share all the information today based on environmental justice? It's through awareness, through groups like what we're doing right now, through our documentaries, through our stories, through education. They wanted to know our target audience. So some people say, and I was talking to Nikki, what is it? Rosita. I was talking to Rosita. She was talking about her film, and people want you to have a specific age range. Well, sometimes that doesn't fit every film because it depends on your message and who you were trying to get to. So we picked in our age range that we would like to educate. For instance, where I lived, we would want to let people know that the kids, let's say they started off, they were young kids, and we were saying, your grandmother lived here. Your grandmother died from cancer. We're not sure if it's environmental, but there could be some factors that could have caused that. So we want you to be aware. So we talked about the awareness and bringing awareness from a little kid to my age range and older. And the more that you educate people, and the more that they know about your story, and the more facts that you can provide people, then that's how the awareness comes about. Because right now, in the age of media, for some reason, a lot of people think, well, you know, that media is just saying that. That's not true. But as long as you have facts and you can back it up, then you don't have an issue. And so we talked a little bit about that. And then the values, how do you how many people do you reach? You reach them based on what I was just saying. You start educating them at a young age, and you continue to educate them through information. How do you do that? What does that look like? It looks like the Sybil was talking about your passion and your voice, and how you got to have a voice. You got to believe in what you say, and you got to make sure that what you're saying is based on facts. And that passion that comes out when a person sees a passion in your film, and you can get it out there to where everyone sees it, then that's what we need to do together. We have so many voices here today that any type of information that we want to do, we can work together. How do we get it out? We start groups. We start social media groups. We start different the town halls like they were talking about, and we get our word out through our film, and we promote each other, and we let each other know that, hey, we're going to have a Q&A over here, and we want everybody to bring your cameras. We want everybody to get out there and help us identify what the issues are, and we want to educate people. That's what we are here for, to educate people through our film. And so lastly, who could be our partners? The media can be our partners, meaning we have a person here from PBS. He can be our partner today. We have the public media group. You guys can be our partners. We have different, if we just network with each other and put that word out there, and as long as we have our facts, as long as we educate the small kids, the medium kids, and we're constantly passionate about our environment, and we see how that as a group we can make that change. And my closing comment is, let's work together, let's get the word out, and let's take care of our passion.
Represent. All right, thank you so much. Leslie, who's in y'all's group? Or who is your representative? Do I need to come? The baby. Yes. Okay. Ben, in yours group. Yeah.
All right. So our group, we talked about a lot of different things. But in the end, we kind of came up with an idea for, a lot of these climate justice films are, they're, they can be kind of depressing. They can be kind of, a reality people don't want to face. And so we kind of turned it into maybe creating a narrative film that would be, I think, primarily for a younger audience, but kind of do a narrative that showed instead of a dystopian world, like, we have a lot of Armageddons and Children of Men and, Mad Maxes, let's do the opposite and make kind of like a utopian film where we show what the world could be like. We were kind of having a problem with finding conflict, how we would make a film with no conflict, but we were coming up with a few ideas of maybe like a I don't know, a revolving world where everyone kind of experiences everyone's different journey, or I think we were just kind of coming up with ideas for showing what the world could look like, and giving people hope in that way. Like, it doesn't have to be scientifically accurate, I guess, in terms if you're doing a narrative, but I think showing a world we all want to live in, and I think that might inspire younger people. So yeah, those are kind of the ideas we talked about.
Thank you so much, Ben and Ben's team. And then I'm gonna pull from this group. Come on, sir.
All right, thank y'all for having me up here. I do want to acknowledge my table, Rakita, Leslie, Susan, Krista, and Miss Doris. I'm just the guy steering the wheel. They were the engines, so they gave the thoughts. So I was shared a quote from Martellus Bennett. If you don't know Martellus Bennett, he is a former defensive end for the Jaguars and other teams. But the quote was, Western culture puts man before nature and Eastern culture puts nature before man. And I thought that was a great quote. And I want to lead off with that because I started off talking about a narrative web series that I want to start developing. And it started leading into a conversation that was more relative to real life, which the narrative does. But everything that we were talking about leads into that, and it'll help juice that up. So we started addressing issues environmentally as far as like where the source is from the earth, toxicity in the soil, lack of resources with grocery, food options. When you're talking about gentrification, you have to tear down land and trees, which when you tear down trees, it affects the air, it affects the, shade, sunlight, and everything like that. That helps everything process. And I was sharing a connection between the government. Government is based off checks and balances, but I compared it to, photosynthesis. And so like when you're messing with these different things, it kind of chops into the middle of that. So we basically, we want to target the adult audience, parents, anybody who has guidance, control over kids, which initially the indirect audience is the adults, but the actual target are the kids that are in those food desert communities who need those resources and who need the help and leaders to kind of step up and take care of those situations. And in order to do that, we want to lead with the mythology of each one, teach one kind of concept. Somebody stepping up and being a true leader and leading by example and holding the person next to them accountable and making sure that the kids have the right instructions so they can, have that trickle effect in the future. Doing that, we can have sustainable nutrition, and having sustainable nutrition, we can address all the things that provide those sustainable nutritions. Dealing with, the city, clean water, that affects how the plants grow, which affects the kind of plants that we do get. Because just because you grow plants doesn't mean that they're clean, right? They have to be natural. The world can look better, and it can be hopeful. But what are the issues that come about that people run into is lack of education. Whether it's lack of education because you don't know what you don't know, or you just don't know the science behind it. You might know that, vegetables are good for you, but you don't know how that affects your mental, your physical, your emotional health, how that can improve some of your goals. Sometimes I know for myself, there's a lot of things that, I just could be better at if I eat better, if I work out better, if I have these options to go to on a nightly basis. Like if it's midnight and there's a fast food open, how can I get to a healthy fast food 24 hour? Do they have that available? So in order to do that, what do they need to see? They need to see leaders. Like they need to see people taken out of themselves to put themselves at the forefront, like it's V-Day, and be an example and live that lifestyle so they can see that they can do it. As far as distribution and engagement and strategy, obviously social media is the quickest way. I believe that this topic and this situation is too important to wait on a big distribution company to pick it up and see if it's important. I feel like self-distribution is the way to go to get the mass people. But also creating events that'll get people involved and create experiences such as cleanup days. I suggested environmental block parties where people set up vendor stations and things like that, where people can rotate and learn different things, where kids can come. There might be a section for like, learning how to change a tire, learning how to plant this and learn how to do this, where they can learn those different things. And it can create, like I said, create an experience where they could take home and implement it in their own households. So in order to reach these people and create a mass brand, partnering with organizations like BPM, Houston Film Commission, the city of Houston, but hitting the radio stations, hitting any kind of situation where we can get people's eyes and ears to hear what's going on. Because at the end of the day, we can bring you to the water, we can't make you drink. Tackling local figures and partnering, seeing if there's any hospitals that do, promote health and that do want you to get better. That's kind of the partnerships we want to try to focus on. As far as like a film concept, I would just use the web series that I thought about, but I mean, it is what it is. But I guess all we got right now. And document the event. So like with the social media, it don't have to be long form. It could be short form, quick to the point, or it could be 5 minutes, but something that people can want to know more, and then bring them to the event so they can see it for themselves and feel it for themselves. So yeah, that's what I got.
Thank you so much, Sherrod. That is an amazing idea. So I really hope, please stick with that web series. Please. I want to, okay, Candace and Baby. Okay.
Okay, I realize my pronoun is we. This is my bag. It's a Birkin. So costs more than a Birkin. It will by the time I pay it off. Okay, so we talked talking in draft. So we talked a lot about actually like impact campaign for a documentary regarding like how we would kind of enter and also exit a community, I guess, in terms of the documentary and how it would uplift the solutions that are already present on the ground through grassroots activism. So lifting up those solutions in a way where the people who are watching have a clear-cut way to be galvanized to support already local activism that's happening. And we talked about the possibility of a collective impact campaign. We didn't finish getting into that, but that was where we were leaving off. And we got into this conversation through conversation around the connection between land and how land has been exploited through on U.S. soil through enslavement, through prison industrial complex, through convict leasing, and how that's related to environmental justice, right? How all of those issues are connected, and how some of our entry points into environmental racism have come, for those of us who are Black, has come through racism, and some people who've entered through environmental justice have entered into racism through the environmental justice route. And how that's colored our viewpoints. We talked about Gaddy's film, Uplifting What's Happening in Barbuda. She shared more about the relationship between what's happening in Barbuda and the dollars that come from tourism, specifically U.S. tourism, and kind of this mass like grab by large like JP Morgan Bank, she mentioned, to grab land in Barbuda, Robert De Niro being a part of that. Can we talk about that? I hope that's not secret, because what? Anyway, to start a Nobu. Nobu's not even, anyway, whatever. Okay, we need to eat. Let me not get into it. But but talking about how people, the recognition that how our tourism dollars are being funneled to the displacement of the displacement of people, and this grab for land in Barbuda, and how that could be an action point for people in the U.S. or internationally to understand that when they are looking at tourism and how they're affecting and where they're choosing, how they're playing into that. And then that brought me to listening to Ms. Doris earlier, and how we are actually in a cancer cluster site right now in this community, having these talks on this land here, in this community here, and how so many of these stories, even though I'm based in Houston, are not really well known. And my thought about in Houston's tourism is really fueled a lot by this call for Houston being like the most diverse city in the nation. And that diversity is all propped up by Black and brown people, by immigrant refugee populations who are all pretty much sequestered in lands that are hotbeds of environmental racism. And that the tourism dollars in Houston are not funneled in any way towards those communities. And is there kind of an action point and connection there with Barbuda and the tourism, and then this local tourism, right? When people come in, they stay at hotels, hotel occupancy taxes fuel art, but none of those taxes are fueled toward these communities, right? As like another action point in terms of looking at some connection with this story in Barbuda, how that can be looking at the methods of those activists there and what they're doing can be a template for other communities to activate those templates. And then that's where we got into how do we boost up also what's happening locally so that it doesn't just feel like this amorphous thing where you're like, oh, wow, look at what they're doing. That's so great. I'm sending positive energy. Because if it was that, listen, I'd have fixed all of the problems. Because sending hearts and kisses, love, I just really send praying for it. But how do we actually create measurable impact that we can actually measure? So if the documentary is helping boost this community, how do we, instead of just boosting and creating a campaign, how do we exit that community and don't just extract the story and then move on? Like, what type of sustainability, what type of activism needs to continue in reference to the lifetime of the documentary in terms of boosting up what is happening with the people that we are using for this process, right? And whatever plan is around that, and potentially what kind of collective. Yeah, I missed that. You're right. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah. And what type of collective impact campaign to make sure that we address those and how that could be leveraged. Okay. Yes. Thank you.
I believe I got everybody. Yes. Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, give yourselves a hand. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for being a part of this conversation and this community. It is through us that we are the change that we want to be in the world. Not to go on cheesy, but I want to bring on Leslie to wrap us up for the evening.
All right. I had something written and somehow it got erased, so I'm going to have to wing it. But, today really and reminded me of why I do what I do. I grew up in Southern California. I remember smog alerts. We couldn't play outside in the yard because of the smog alerts. I remember the drought. I could only take 5-minute showers, because of the drought. Don't flush the toilet every day or, every hour, whatever. All these little things that I remember as a kid. And now as an adult, living in New York City, I can actually take longer showers because there's lots of water. But in the time that I lived in my place of residence right now, it's outside of the city. When we moved there were fireflies. I don't see fireflies anymore, right? I've only been there for 15 years, right? So the stories that our storytellers provide, that they give us, enrich us, empower us, and activate us. And so I want everyone today, if you're working on your story, if you have your story, if you're thinking of your story, be empowered knowing that this group here and the group that we have online, that we're here for you. We want your stories. We want to help you make them, distribute them, and get audiences engaged, because this is no joke. We all know that here. And I think there's a lot of other people out there in the world that know that too. They just need assets. They need tools so that they can go and do the good fight. So I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank New York Community Trust and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and PBS again for supporting this summit. I would definitely want to thank Houston Cinema Art Society and Austin Film Society for bringing Black public media back. Erica, could you stand up from Austin Film Society? Erica, that you all sorry, right? And I don't know if Katie's Katie, right? Everybody from Houston Cinema Art Society, Maya, right? Okay, yes, thank you, Candace, thank you. Um, the DeLUXE Theatre, I want to thank them. I'm not sure who's here. Houston Media Source, is that who? Right? Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, Blackheart, I know y'all are out there. Hello, hey, they're our virtual partners. And again, please everyone give another huge shout out to my colleague, Ebony Johnson. All right, one of the wonderful things about being at a company that is a remote company is that you're able to work with amazing people, even if they live in Texas. I live in New York, and she lives in Dallas, Texas. And I'm so thankful that Ebony joined Black Public Media, and she's just amazing. So I just want to say that. That's it. We're gonna go into cocktail hour. I told you we're gonna take care of y'all. We're gonna have a little cocktail hour. I know that Houston Media Source is gonna be breaking down, so just be mindful of them. They gotta get all this equipment back up and where it needs to be. But just, if you wanna stay in touch with Black Public Media, go to www.blackpublicmedia.org and sign up for our newsletter. Get on Facebook, Instagram. I don't know about Twitter. I mean, we're there, but I don't know. But you can follow us there. And then, of course, I try to make myself as accessible as possible. But if you're working on a project, I will connect you with Denise Green, who's our program development director. If you're working on an immersive project, I will connect you with Lisa Osborne, who's head of our BPM Plus immersive media program. And if you need engagement, then you're going to talk to Ebony. So we're here for you. It's a safe space for Black artists, Black makers, Black content creators, but it's a safe space for everybody at Black Public Media. thank you all, and good night. We need some music.